Ambassador Veldar sat in his office on the Trade Federation space station, watching the morning communication reports scroll across his screen. 347,000 human transmissions in the last hour alone. He rubbed his temple with one of his four hands and wondered how any species could talk so much. Hyunwoo Station calling anyone in the area, came a cheerful voice through the speakers. We just finished making the best batch of space kimchi ever. Anyone want to try some? We're willing to trade for literally anything. Even just good conversation. Before Veldar could mute the channel, another human voice responded. This is Jiun on Mining Platform 7. I would love some kimchi. My grandmother always said food tastes better when you share stories with it. Did I ever tell you about the time she fought off space pirates with nothing but a frying pan? No way, really? Came excited replies from at least 6 different human stations. Veldar sighed deeply. This was how it always started. One simple message from a human would turn into hours of storytelling, joke sharing, philosophical debates, and random conversations about everything from weather patterns to childhood memories. The humans never seemed to stop talking. His people, the Arcturians, valued silence. They spoke only when necessary, choosing each word with care. Most galactic species were the same. The crystalline collective shared thoughts through harmonic vibrations only during important decisions. The Zephyrians communicated through scent markers that lasted for days, making quick chatter impossible. Even the warlike hegemony used military precision in their speech, saying exactly what needed to be said and nothing more. But humans? They talked about everything. They broadcast their meals, their feelings, their random thoughts, their dreams and their fears. They shared personal stories with complete strangers. They asked questions just to hear other people answer. They made jokes that sometimes took 20 minutes to tell properly. This is Captain Taemin on the diplomatic ship Bright Future, came another transmission. We're heading to the neutral zone to help with those trade disputes. Has anyone heard any good jokes lately? Long space flights are boring without entertainment. Oh, I have one, replied a woman's voice from somewhere in the outer rim. So Young told me this yesterday. Why did the alien refuse to eat human food? I don't know why, asked Captain Taemin. Because it was too spicy for their tentacles to handle. Laughter filled the communication channel from dozens of human voices. Even some alien ships monitoring the frequency sent amused responses. Veldar found himself almost smiling before he caught himself. This was the problem. Somehow, the endless human chatter had become important to galactic civilization. No one could explain exactly how or when it happened, but other species had started depending on it. In the Zephyrian Economic Center, market analyst Zefka was already studying human social media posts to predict trade patterns. The humans posted about everything when they were happy, sad, worried, or excited. They shared opinions about new products, complained about prices, and discussed their spending plans openly. This emotional honesty made them perfect economic indicators. When humans started posting about wanting luxury items, Zefka knew demand would rise. When they complained about costs, he prepared for market drops. On the pleasure worlds of the Void Wanderers, the morning entertainment schedule was filled with human broadcasts. Korean dramas from Earth, comedy shows from the colonies, music concerts from space stations, and reality programs that followed human families going about their daily lives. The Void Wanderers had become completely addicted to human entertainment. Their own culture had become so advanced and peaceful that they found human emotional drama fascinatingly primitive and refreshing. Even the crystalline collective had started using human communication patterns. Their hive mind was perfect for sharing information but terrible at making creative decisions. Human arguments, with all their chaos and individual opinions, somehow helped the collective think in new ways. They would listen to humans debate simple topics like, what's the best breakfast food, and use those discussion patterns to solve complex engineering problems. Dr. Yith at the Science Consortium had written papers about this phenomenon. She called it communication symbiosis. The humans provided emotional data, creative thinking, and social bonding through their constant chatter. Other species provided structure, logic, and technical expertise. Together, the galaxy worked better than any single species could manage alone. But it was in diplomacy where human talkativeness really shone. Ambassador Veldar had watched human diplomats solve conflicts that had lasted centuries, simply by getting everyone talking. They shared personal stories that helped enemies see each other as people. They asked questions that made proud warriors admit their fears. They told jokes that broke tension in the middle of serious negotiations. Lieutenant Wu Jin was famous throughout the galaxy for ending the border wars not with treaties or military force, but by getting both sides talking about their families. He spent 3 months just chatting with soldiers, sharing photos of his daughter, asking about their homes, telling stories about his childhood. By the time formal peace talks began, the armies had already become friends. "Attention all ships," came another transmission. "This is Engineer Yuna on Construction Platform 5. We just finished building the new jump gate ahead of schedule. Anyone want to be the first to test it? We promise it's completely safe." "Probably." "Define probably," laughed a captain from somewhere in the inner worlds. "Well, we're 99% sure it won't accidentally send you to another dimension," Yuna replied cheerfully. Veldar found himself actually chuckling at this exchange. This was another thing about humans: they made dangerous situations seem manageable through humor and casual conversation. Other species might panic about dimensional travel risks, but humans just made jokes and kept working. The communication channels buzzed with constant human activity. Weather reports mixed with personal confessions. Technical specifications were shared alongside family recipes. Military updates came with requests for dating advice. It was chaos, but it was alive, warm, and somehow comforting. As Veldar prepared his daily reports, he realized something that would have shocked his younger self. He actually looked forward to the human chatter each morning. Their voices had become the heartbeat of galactic civilization, a constant reminder that somewhere out there, people were living, laughing, working, and sharing their lives with anyone willing to listen. He had no way of knowing that tomorrow, all of those voices would suddenly disappear, and the galaxy would learn just how much it had come to depend on humanity's endless conversations. Chief Communications Officer Crix was enjoying his morning cup of heated mineral water when every screen in the Trade Federation control room suddenly went quiet. He blinked his large eyes and tapped the console with one of his clawed fingers. The human communication channels had been buzzing with activity just seconds before: Captain Taemin discussing breakfast plans, Engineer Yuna sharing construction updates, and at least 50 other humans chatting about daily life across the galaxy. Now there was nothing. Complete silence on every frequency humans normally used. "Must be a technical problem," Crix muttered to himself. He ran a full system diagnostic. All equipment working perfectly. He checked the relay stations between human space and Federation territory. All functioning normally. He even contacted the automated monitoring stations near Earth. Everything operational. But no human voices anywhere. Crix felt his stomach drop. In his 15 years as a communications officer, he had never experienced even 5 minutes without human chatter. These people talked constantly. They broadcast everything from cooking shows to poetry readings to random thoughts about cloud formations. They never went quiet. Ever. He immediately called his supervisor. "Sir, we have a problem. All human communications have stopped." "What do you mean stopped?" asked Commander Nexval, his voice sharp with concern. "I mean silent, sir. No transmissions, no broadcasts, no emergency signals. Nothing." It happened at exactly 0347 Galactic Standard Time. There was a long pause. "Check again." "Humans don't just stop talking." Crix checked again. And again. The silence remained complete. Within the first hour, other species began noticing the problem. On the Zephyrian Trade Hub, market analyst Zefka was having the worst day of his career. His prediction algorithms were crashing one by one as they searched for human social data that no longer existed. "The markets are going crazy," Zefka reported to his manager, his voice shaking. "Without human emotional responses to track, we can't predict anything. Humans always react first to economic news. They post about their feelings, their spending plans, their job situations. We use that data for everything." Stock prices began swinging wildly as automated trading systems, designed to follow human social patterns, started making random decisions. Luxury goods markets crashed when the algorithms couldn't find any humans discussing purchase plans. Food commodities spiked as systems assumed the worst when no human farmers provided their usual crop updates. The Zephyrian Economic Council called an emergency meeting. "How long can our markets function without human data?" asked the chief trade minister. "Maybe a day," Zefka answered honestly. 2 days maximum before complete economic collapse. Meanwhile, on the pleasure worlds of the Void Wanderers, a different kind of crisis was developing. The entertainment-addicted population was experiencing withdrawal symptoms as their daily dose of human shows, music, and drama suddenly disappeared. Wanderer Zixna, who managed the largest entertainment complex in the sector, watched in horror as his customers began showing signs of distress. They wandered aimlessly through empty theaters, desperate for their regular fix of human emotional content. "The humans were supposed to broadcast the season finale of Love Among the Stars today," complained one customer, his tentacles drooping with disappointment. I've been following that show for 2 years. What happens to Jae-ho and Minji? Do they get married or not? There's no replacement content, Zixna explained helplessly. Our own entertainment is too peaceful. Too logical. Everyone's addicted to human chaos and emotions. Without it, people don't know what to do with themselves. Across the galaxy, the crystalline collective was experiencing their own problems. Their hive mind, which had learned to stabilize itself using human individual thinking patterns, began developing fractures. Without the constant background noise of human debate and personal opinions, their group consciousness started becoming too uniform, too perfect, and paradoxically, too unstable. Harmony Node 7 reported to the central crystal. The individual thought patterns that humans provided are gone. Our collective is becoming too synchronized. We're losing creative problem-solving abilities. But the most immediate crisis was developing in the diplomatic zones. Lieutenant Wu Jin's absence was already causing problems in the neutral zone, where hegemony and Commonwealth ships had been maintaining an uneasy peace for months thanks to his daily friendly conversations with both sides. Without his cheerful, "Good morning, everyone. How's the family?" messages, old suspicions began returning. Commonwealth Captain Rex Tar found himself remembering ancient grievances against the hegemony that he had forgotten during months of chatting with Wu Jin about children and home cooking. The human mediator hasn't checked in, Rextar reported to his command. Maybe the hegemony did something to him. Similar suspicions were growing on hegemony ships. Within hours of Wu Jin's silence, both fleets were raising shields and preparing weapons. Ambassador Veldar was trying to coordinate emergency responses from his office, but without human translators and mediators constantly smoothing over communication problems, simple diplomatic messages were being misunderstood and creating new conflicts. The Outer Rim colonies are reporting supply shortages, his assistant informed him. Human traffic controllers were managing the shipping lanes through constant conversation. Without their coordination, cargo ships don't know where to go. What about the human colonies themselves? Veldar asked. That's the strange part, sir. Long-range sensors show them still active. Cities functioning, ships moving, agriculture operating normally. But they're not responding to any communication attempts. Dr. Yith at the Science Consortium was collecting similar reports from across the galaxy. Human settlements appeared completely normal from the outside, but they had become unreachable. Diplomatic ships approaching human colonies found their messages ignored entirely. It's like they can't see us anymore, reported Captain Thexron from a reconnaissance mission to New Sol Colony. I landed at their spaceport. Humans walking around normally, going about their business. But when I approached them, they walked right past me. Not hostile, not scared. Just nothing. Like I wasn't there. Emergency diplomatic channels lit up across the galaxy as species after species reported the same phenomenon. Humans were present but unreachable. Alive but silent. There but not there. Panic began spreading through galactic civilization as everyone realized the same terrifying truth. They had all become dependent on human chatter without realizing it. The species that talked too much had become the glue holding everything together. And now they were gone, leaving behind a galaxy that suddenly didn't know how to function in silence. Military fleets began mobilizing. Some prepared to investigate human space. Others prepared for war, assuming that humanity's silence meant they were planning something terrible. Nobody considered that the humans might be trying to protect everyone from something far worse than war. The first shot was fired on the third day of silence. Commonwealth Captain Rextar, stationed in the neutral zone, watched a hegemony patrol ship cross into disputed territory and made a decision that would have been impossible just a week earlier. They're testing us, he told his weapons officer. Without Lieutenant Wu Jin here to keep everyone talking, they think they can just take what they want. The plasma blast that followed lit up the darkness of space. The hegemony ship returned fire immediately. Within minutes, 2 more ships from each side had joined the battle. By the end of the day, the neutral zone was a war zone again. Lieutenant Wu Jin had prevented this conflict for 2 years through nothing more than daily conversations. Every morning he would chat with both fleets about their families, their food, their dreams of home. He shared pictures of his daughter learning to walk. He asked about their parents, their traditions, their fears. Slowly, enemy soldiers had become friends who happened to wear different uniforms. But friendship built on conversation died quickly in silence. Ambassador Veldar stood in the emergency council chamber, watching the crisis reports scroll across multiple screens. The neutral zone conflict was just the beginning. Trade Route 7 had collapsed when human traffic controllers stopped coordinating cargo ships. Route 12 was experiencing dangerous overcrowding because human logistics coordinators weren't managing the flow anymore. 17 diplomatic incidents in the past day, reported his assistant, her voice strained. The Outer Rim colonies are running short on medical supplies. The Crystal Collective is requesting emergency assistance for what they're calling consciousness fragmentation. And the Zephyrian markets have crashed completely. Veldar had always found human diplomats annoying. They talked too much, shared too many personal details, and turned every formal meeting into a social gathering. Now he realized their constant chatter had been preventing disasters he never knew were possible. In the Zephyrian Economic Center, market analyst Zefka was watching his life's work crumble. Without human social media to analyze, his prediction algorithms had become useless. Worse, the absence of human emotional data was causing automated trading systems to make increasingly desperate decisions. The food markets think there's a famine coming, Zefka explained to the Emergency Economic Council. The luxury goods sector believes war is imminent. The housing market assumes everyone is relocating. All because we can't read human social patterns anymore. His species had spent decades learning to interpret human emotions through their endless online sharing. When humans posted happy messages about new jobs, markets prepared for increased spending. When they worried about prices, sectors prepared for demand drops. When they shared family photos, social stability indicators improved. The humans had become the galaxy's emotional weather system, and now that system was completely dark. How much longer before total economic collapse? Asked the chief economic minister. We're already there, Zefka replied quietly. We just haven't admitted it yet. On the pleasure worlds, the situation was becoming equally desperate. Wanderer Zix now watched his customers grow more agitated each day without their regular dose of human entertainment. The withdrawal symptoms were getting worse. We need something, pleaded one regular customer, a usually calm void wanderer whose skin had taken on an unhealthy gray color. Anything. Even just one of those human cooking shows where they argue about ingredients. Or those strange programs where they follow human families around and film their daily arguments. There's nothing, Zixna replied helplessly. Our own entertainment is too logical. Too peaceful. We've lost the ability to create emotional chaos on our own. The customer's tentacles drooped further. But what happens to Minho in that drama series? Does he forgive his brother? Does he get the promotion? I need to know. Similar scenes were playing out across entertainment districts. Entire populations had become addicted to human emotional content without realizing it. The humans provided drama, passion, conflict, and resolution in ways other species had forgotten how to create. Meanwhile, the Crystalline Collective was facing their own crisis. Harmony Node 7 reported to the Central Crystal with growing concern. Without human individual thought patterns to study, our collective consciousness is becoming too uniform. We're losing the ability to generate new ideas. The humans had unknowingly provided the collective with examples of individual thinking, the chaos of personal opinions, the messiness of individual emotions, the unpredictability of personal decisions. This data had taught the collective how to break away from groupthink when creativity was needed. We require the human thought patterns to maintain cognitive flexibility, Node 7 continued. Without them, we're becoming perfect but sterile. But the most frightening reports were coming from the reconnaissance missions to human space. Captain Thexron submitted his third survey of New Sol Colony, and each report was more disturbing than the last. The humans are definitely alive, he reported to Ambassador Veldar. I can see them through the windows of their buildings. They're working, moving around, apparently going about normal daily activities. But they completely ignore any alien presence. Ignore how? Veldar asked. I mean completely. I landed my ship in their main spaceport. Humans walked around it, past it, under it. They loaded cargo onto other ships. They performed maintenance on nearby vessels. But they acted like my ship wasn't there at all. When I approached them directly, they walked through the space where I was standing as if I didn't exist. Similar reports came from other human colonies. The settlements appeared to be functioning normally, but humans seemed unable to see, hear, or acknowledge any alien presence. Medical scans showed they were healthy. Energy readings showed their technology was working. But something had changed fundamentally about how humans interacted with the rest of the galaxy. It's like they've retreated into a different reality, Dr. Yith explained to the Emergency Council. They're there but not there. Present but unreachable. Fear began spreading through the galactic community. Military fleets mobilized across different sectors. Some species prepared defensive positions, assuming the silence meant humans were planning an attack. Others prepared invasion forces, believing humanity had discovered some terrible secret and needed to be stopped before they could use it. The hegemony assembled their largest war fleet in centuries. The Commonwealth matched them ship for ship. Even peaceful species like the Trade Federation began arming their vessels. If the humans have gone dark, it means they're preparing something big, declared Supreme Commander Nexrath of the military coalition. No species just disappears without reason. Either they're all dead, which seems impossible, or they're planning the largest military operation in galactic history. Nobody considered that the humans might be trying to protect the galaxy from something far more dangerous than any military threat. Nobody imagined that humanity's silence wasn't preparation for war, but a desperate attempt to prevent detection by something that fed on communication itself. As fleets moved toward human space and panic spread through galactic civilization, the truth remained hidden in the quiet colonies where humans continued their daily lives, terrified but determined to keep silent until they could find a way to warn everyone without dooming them all. Dr. Yith adjusted her scanning equipment as her research team prepared to land on Earth itself. After days of studying human colonies from orbit, she was determined to solve the mystery that threatened to tear the galaxy apart. Her team included specialists from 6 different species, all volunteering for what many considered a suicide mission. "Remember, maintain stealth shields at all times," she instructed her team as their ship descended toward Sol Spaceport. "We don't know if the humans have become hostile or if something has taken control of them." The landing was surprisingly normal. Human ships continued their regular traffic patterns around the spaceport. Ground crews loaded cargo and performed maintenance on various vessels. Everything looked exactly as it should, except for one crucial detail: no human acknowledged their presence at all. Dr. Yith walked directly up to a human maintenance worker who was repairing a cargo ship's engine. The man was clearly Engineer Dong-Su based on the name tag on his coveralls. She stood right in front of him and spoke loudly. "Hello, can you hear me?" Dong-Su continued working as if she didn't exist. He reached for a tool that was sitting right next to her foot, and when she didn't move, he simply picked up a different tool instead. Not angry, not confused, not afraid. He just adapted his actions as if the space she occupied was naturally empty. "It's like we're ghosts to them," whispered Node 7, her crystalline collective partner. "But their behavior suggests they don't see empty space. They see something, just not us." The team moved deeper into the city, observing carefully. Humans went about their daily routines, shopping, working, eating at restaurants, playing in parks. Children laughed and ran around. Adults had conversations. Everything appeared completely normal, except none of them reacted to the alien observers in any way. But as Dr. Yith watched more carefully, she began noticing something strange about these human conversations. In a small cafe, she observed a group of humans sitting around a table. Their mouths weren't moving, but their facial expressions were animated and changing constantly. They looked like people having an intense discussion, but no sounds came from their lips. "Are they miming?" asked her assistant, a young scientist from the Void Wanderer species. "Look closer," Dr. Yith said, pointing at the group. As they watched, the humans' expressions shifted from confusion to understanding to excitement to concern, all in perfect synchronization. Whatever they were discussing, they were all experiencing the same emotional journey at the same moment. Node 7's harmonic sensors suddenly began picking up unusual readings. "Doctor, I'm detecting thought wave patterns. Very complex, very sophisticated. Unlike anything in our databases." Dr. Yith quickly set up her most advanced scanning equipment, focusing on the group of humans in the cafe. What the scanners revealed made her question everything she thought she knew about consciousness itself. Streams of what could only be described as visible thought were flowing between the humans. Emotions appeared as shifting colors: warm gold for happiness, deep blue for concern, bright red for excitement. Ideas took the form of complex geometric patterns that moved and changed as they passed from person to person. Memories flowed like cascades of silver light, carrying not just information but the actual experience of remembering. "They've evolved," Dr. Yith whispered in amazement. "They're communicating telepathically." But there was something else in the thought streams, something that made Dr. Yith's scientific excitement turn to worry. Underneath all the beautiful patterns of consciousness, there was a constant current of fear. Deep, overwhelming terror that seemed to touch every human mind she scanned. She focused her equipment on individual humans, trying to understand what they were so afraid of. A woman identified as Engineer Yuna was sitting alone at another table, but her thoughts were connected to the larger network of human consciousness. Dr. Yith managed to intercept fragments of the telepathic communication. "The hunger grows stronger. Can you feel it pressing against the dark between stars? How much longer before it finds us? The feeding frequency, if we accidentally broadcast on traditional channels, it will detect us immediately. Dr. Yith felt her blood turn cold. The humans weren't just afraid. They were hiding from something. She moved her scanners to another human, a man called Scientist Jeho who was walking past the cafe. His thoughts joined the stream. The other species don't understand. Their communication networks are like beacon lights to this thing. Every transmission, every broadcast, they're calling it here. How do we warn them without alerting it? If we try to explain, it will hear us. Maybe we can find a way to bridge our new abilities with their technology. Create a barrier it cannot penetrate. Dr. Yitha's hands shook as she recorded this data. The humans had evolved telepathic abilities, but in the process, they had discovered something terrible approaching the galaxy. Something that fed on communication itself. She quickly expanded her scans, searching for more information. The thoughts of hundreds of humans in the area painted a terrifying picture. A cosmic entity, vast and hungry, was moving toward their galaxy. It consumed civilizations by infiltrating their communication networks, turning their own words and thoughts into weapons against them. The humans had accidentally detected this entity when their telepathic abilities first emerged. Their immediate response was to go completely silent on all traditional communication channels to avoid attracting its attention. We were its beacon, came another fragment from a human teacher named Sunmi. All our chatter, our constant broadcasts, we were calling it here without knowing. But our silence won't save everyone, replied someone else. The other species are still broadcasting, still making themselves visible to it. Dr. Yith realized with growing horror that humanity's endless talking hadn't just been social behavior. It had been accidentally creating a noise barrier that confused the cosmic predator. Their chaotic, hopeful, constantly changing communications had been too complex for the entity to understand and exploit. But now that the humans had gone silent and developed telepathic abilities, they could see the entity clearly. They knew it was coming, and they knew that every alien transmission in the galaxy was drawing it closer. We have to get this information back to the Emergency Council, Dr. Yith told her team urgently. The humans aren't our enemy. They're trying to save us from something we can't even see. As her team prepared to leave Earth, Dr. Yith took one last scan of the human thought network. What she found was both terrifying and hopeful. The humans were working desperately to find a solution that would protect the galaxy without alerting the cosmic predator to their knowledge. They were running out of time. The entity emerged from the dark space between galaxies like a spreading shadow made of hunger and malice. Dr. Yith watched her instruments go crazy as the massive presence entered their solar system, drawn by 3 days of panicked emergency communications from every species in the galaxy. It had no solid form, but its influence was immediate and terrifying. Alien communication networks across the galaxy began corrupting. On the Trade Federation flagship, Ambassador Valdar watched in horror as his own words twisted on the communication screens, changing from diplomatic messages into threats of violence against his allies. All ships, maintain radio silence immediately, he ordered, but even those words transformed as they transmitted, becoming accusations that the Trade Federation was planning to abandon their partners. The Crystalline Collective's harmonic communications turned into discordant noise that shattered their group consciousness into screaming fragments. Zephyrian trade networks became loops of economic disaster predictions that crashed their markets within minutes. Every word spoken, every message sent, became poison that the entity fed upon and used against them. Panic spread through alien fleets as they realized their own communication systems were being turned into weapons. Ships that tried to coordinate defense found themselves broadcasting attack orders instead. Species that attempted to share information discovered their data had become lies designed to create chaos and fear. But then, cutting through the corruption like a beam of pure light, came a human voice on every frequency simultaneously. All species, this is Captain Taemin of the human diplomatic vessel Bright Future. We can see it. We can feel what it's doing to your communications. Do not try to respond using your normal systems. We will guide you. The voice was different somehow. Still recognizably human, still carrying Taemin's familiar warmth, but enhanced with something deeper. When he spoke, other species didn't just hear his words, they understood his meaning directly, as if his thoughts were flowing straight into their minds. Across human space, settlements that had been silent for days suddenly blazed to life with activity. But these weren't the chaotic, cheerful transmissions the galaxy remembered. These were focused, purposeful communications that somehow remained untouchable by the entity's corruption. This is Engineer Yuna from Construction Platform 5. came another enhanced voice. We've learned something new during our silence. Our species evolved, but we can share this evolution with you. Let us show you how to communicate without feeding the beast. On Earth, Dr. Yith watched in amazement as humans throughout Seoul began serving as living bridges between telepathic consciousness and traditional communication. Scientist Jae-ho stood in the city center, his eyes closed in concentration, as streams of pure thought flowed through him and emerged as uncorrupted radio transmissions. The humans had spent their days of silence developing something unprecedented: the ability to translate perfect telepathic understanding into traditional broadcasts while creating barriers that the cosmic predator couldn't penetrate. Our constant chatter wasn't just noise, transmitted Admiral So-young from Earth Command, her words reaching every alien ship simultaneously without using any technology the entity could corrupt. We were accidentally creating complexity it couldn't digest. All our arguments, our jokes, our random conversations about daily life, we were building a wall of chaos and hope that kept it confused and distant. As the entity pressed closer, trying to feed on the fear and discord it had created, something unexpected happened. The humans began broadcasting on every frequency, but not the way they used to. Their new communications were layered with telepathic understanding that allowed other species to grasp not just their words, but their intentions, emotions, and genuine meaning. Commonwealth and Hegemony fleets, called Lieutenant Wu Jin from the neutral zone, I know you've been fighting because my silence let old fears return. But I'm here now and I can show you what we've learned. Feel what I'm sharing with you. As his words reached the warring fleets, something miraculous happened. The soldiers didn't just hear his message, they experienced his memories of their friendships, felt his genuine care for both sides, understood his hope for peace not just as words but as lived truth. The fighting stopped instantly. Weapons powered down as former enemies remembered why they had become friends in the first place. Across the galaxy, human telepaths like Sunmi and Dongsu began creating communication networks that bridged species barriers. When the crystalline collective's harmonic systems failed, humans translated their harmonic thoughts into patterns other species could understand. When Zephyrian sent communications became corrupted, humans converted the chemical meanings into pure concepts that transcended language entirely. The entity, faced with this new form of communication it couldn't corrupt, thoughts too pure to twist, connections too honest to poison, and an underlying foundation of hope and understanding too strong to break, began retreating into the void between galaxies. It feeds on fear, confusion, and miscommunication, explained Captain Taemin as the cosmic predator withdrew. But when communication becomes understanding, when words carry genuine meaning, when different species truly connect, it has nothing to consume. In the aftermath, the galaxy settled into a new rhythm. Human chatter returned, but enhanced with their telepathic abilities. They served as living translators, helping species understand not just each other's words, but their intentions and feelings. Ambassador Veldar found himself back in his office, listening to the familiar sound of human voices filling the communication channels. But now when engineer Yuna joked about her latest construction project, he could sense her pride in her work. When scientist Jae-ho shared his research, the complexity became clear rather than confusing. Sorry about the silence, came a cheerful transmission from Captain Taemin. We had to learn when to listen before we could teach everyone how to truly hear each other. The galaxy had learned that humanity's greatest strength wasn't just their talkativeness, but their ability to connect, understand, and help others find their voice in the vast universe. They had saved everyone not by learning to be quiet, but by learning to make their constant chatter mean something deeper. The species that talked too much had become the species that helped everyone else truly communicate.